Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Generation Y. Before the break, we were talking about marriages, things like young marriages, love marriages, forced marriages. All these topics linked together into one topic. I'd like to take Daud and ask him a question regarding love marriages. What's your take and view on love marriages? For example, when you see a young lad, they say that they've seen love at first sight, they've fallen in love, and they've seen someone they've liked. Do you think that exists, and if it does, what's your view on it?
According to a lot of people, they have fallen in love at first sight. It can happen. It might have happened to some people, but obviously, them people have obviously met at such a young age. They must have met in high school. They must have been together throughout that, and they must have really tried throughout their life to be together. And if that's the definition of love, then that's what they have.
Do you think love marriage is better than arranged marriage or even forced marriage? Because in the UK, 43% of Pakistanis have been put into forced marriages, and that's a lot, taking into fact that this is from the government. In fact, that 43% of Pakistanis in the UK have been forced to get married. What's your view on that? Such a big figure, 43%, which is nearly half.
Right. And obviously what that figure doesn't tell us is how successful their marriages were. They may have been forced, but it doesn't tell us how successful they were. Sometimes a forced or arranged marriage can be really successful. We just don't know. But usually what people like to think is if you have a love marriage, you're a lot more likely to have a successful marriage, but that's not always the case. Usually sometimes in a love marriage there's a lot more problems than there are in arranged marriages, for example. That just depends on what them people go through, and obviously that changes between couples.
Yeah, especially with love marriages, because love, it doesn't, with a lot of people, it doesn't last. So say that they meet a girl,
Yeah.
after 2 weeks they'll say, oh yeah, I'm in love.
Yeah.
And then maybe so they decide to get married, maybe decide to even have a kid.
Yeah.
And then maybe a year later they're like, why did I do this? Because that love fades away.
Yeah.
Maybe they see another person,
Yeah.
So how do you know that you're oh yeah, she's the one? There's so many other people out there.
Some people just happen to have that straightaway affection for someone,
Exactly.
and they mistake that for love, love at first sight, for example. But obviously, sometimes that's just an illusion that some people like to make just to make themselves feel happy. A lot of people like to like the notion of falling in love in high school and having that love throughout their entire lives, but sometimes obviously that doesn't turn out. It doesn't end up being the best case. As you said, some people do end up falling out of love just because then people get sick of each other.
Yeah.
But obviously if it's an arranged marriage, it does have its detractors, but there's a lot of pressure on both the male and female to make it work because of the families. There's a lot more pressure on them, and that's why arranged marriages are sometimes a lot more successful than love marriages.
Do you think arranged marriages last longer than love marriages?
I feel like a lot of arranged marriages do last a lot longer, but whether they're successful is another thing. Yeah, they are.
Do you think the lasting is due to the fact that the self-respect for example, a person's respect will be that if I don't say the girl doesn't want to be with the guy but is only doing it because the parents have arranged it, and the fact that if she divorces him, she will have the title as a divorcee. And a lot of women in today's society do care about the fact being known as being married to someone else, and it is as some guys, a lot of guys would see it as a put off that they have been with someone. If somebody they've had a kid, they've had a child with someone else,
Yeah.
and that it is a downfall for them, and that you shouldn't put someone in that stage, and that it's not a nice feeling. At the end of the day, the guy can get away with it and think he hasn't got a name, that he doesn't need to. At the end of the day, it does affect the lady a lot.
Yeah,
so
no,
do you think that? So I think that personally that love marriage would be more important, but arranged marriages, if they do last, a lot of the cases will be because they don't want that title, and also they don't want to lose. For example, if they've got a child, they don't want to wear the rights where they have to see the child on their own and stuff like that are taken away from them.
I think definitely that is usually the case, where an arranged marriage does last for a long period of time, but if you ask them again in say 30, 40 years time, they may end up being a lot more affectionate towards each other, because they've been over time that illusion of love just ends up fading away. It just ends up fading away, and they see the bigger picture of, you know, their kids and what they want for their kids. Sometimes in arranged marriage, they might not have love for each other, but that love is transferred onto their kids. That they have a genuine love for their children.
It's like I have, you have family friends that have arranged marriage and they've lasted, and they're arranged marriages, but they love each other and they care about each other, and it's arranged. They're both happy with it, arranged by the parents, and they're happy with it, and they've lasted. So it is, they do last. I'm not saying to you that disagree with it completely, that if you feel like your parents' view counts on it and you want them to decide, then fair dues. Don't think that by having arranged marriage that you're not going to have a successful marriage and this and that, but it's down to the person. So if you're a person that's particular about your view and that you want to do something, you should be able to do that and not have a decision taken for it. For example, now when you're going out for a job, you don't ask your parents, or shall I apply for this job. You ask them which one which is better, and you ask them advice to your parents at the end of the day, but you don't say to them, I'm going to do this job, which one job shall I do? Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's be working in that job, not them. It's like saying to them, what car shall I buy? You're not be driving the car, mate, I'm going to be driving it. Do you get it? It's like that.
Yeah, and that's what some people don't seem to, I say people, but usually sometimes it's our parents that don't understand that at the end of the day, it is going to be us who's going to be in that marriage. It is going to be us who's going to have to deal with the problems or whatever goes on in that marriage. It's going to be us at the end of the day. It's not going to be them. And although there is that pressure of them placing on us to make it work, at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's just down to how the male and female in the marriage end up acting towards each other.
I think they both obviously love and arrange. They both last for different reasons. Obviously, arrange, they last because, you know, if you really love that person, if you before obviously we sort of talked about I'm going to get arranged marriage. If you were happy with that, then obviously you make it last. But if you weren't happy with it, then obviously you might want to get your parents upset because your parents have arranged it, or your grandparents upset, or the families, you know, upset. With love marriage, I think it's a different reason. I believe that. I think they can last longer because obviously you might have loved a person for some time, you've got used to them, you know them, you want to spend your life with them, and therefore you want to take on the responsibility to, you know, to live a lifetime with them.
Bilal, do you think that by with the your parents having an open relationship with your parents is a key factor in allowing you to get married? Is a big link to marriage?
Yeah, of course, that's probably the biggest factor, because if you've got an open relationship with your parents, you can tell them how you feel. If they tell you to marry this person, you tell them how you feel about it. Obviously, if they're not open-minded and you don't have an open relationship with them and they want you to get married to someone, obviously you've got a lot of respect for your parents, and loads of kids could do, okay, I agree with you because you're my father, right, I'll do what you want me to do. They agree, they'll get married. But what's the purpose of that marriage? Is it to actually have a happy relationship, have a family and be happy and follow deen? Or is it just to make your parents happy? Like some like love marriages and almost arranged marriages, they've almost got different purposes. Like the purpose of a love marriage is like just to be happy and family and stuff like that. But for arranged marriage, it's almost like you got to make your parents happy. But it shouldn't be like that, because it's going to be your marriage and your parents aren't going to be in that house. They might be in the house, but they're not.
Sometimes as well. Yeah. I was just thinking that, for example, say your parents are open-minded and they're not willing to accept it, but they're not willing to listen to it because they have the fear, thinking that that my child's young and that. For example, say someone's mother's got a daughter and they're happy with the marriage, for example, the father's happy with it, but they don't want to let go of their daughter so soon, and they're happy with it and everything like that, but it's not, for example, the nikah's not done. What's your view on that? Do you think that they should have a nikah done? Because Islamically, it is haram at the end of the day, no matter what happens. The intention's there, but it is only halal once the nikah's been done. So what would you think that a nikah is important to do, or would you just leave it till time goes on and then go from there?
I think in some circumstances, you know, it depends. It's the girl's choice, you know, if girl or boy choice. But if the parents are ready to nikah, if the girl and boy are ready to do the nikah, then I think you should do the nikah and then leave the wedding till after. There's different ways of going about it, but it's all up to the one person's choice, you know, how they might not want to get, they might be in that love, but you know, they might not fear that that love will last for a long time, and therefore might have told their parents, but not certain that they want to get married to the
A lot of parents
same
do
person.
say that that they feel that the child may be too young. For example, like we were discussing before the break about the young marriages and stuff. But what would you say in return to your parents when, say, you wanted to get married and your parents said to you, you're too young, or you're not mature enough, or even that they're not, for example, not willing to become a father-in-law or mother-in-law yet? What would you do then? What advice would you ask for? What would you do from there?
I think obviously you listen to your parents' advice. Maybe the first time you ask them and they haven't agreed, but I think obviously leave it maybe for a few months, and ask them again. Maybe their minds have changed. Maybe that they won't need to get married, or you know, because you're not going to be the same person every day. You change, so it really depends on the situation you're in at the time. And
Yeah, with that, actually, it depends on the situation. It really depends on who you are and who the person you want to get married to is, because if you're really responsible, you're mature, and you're ready to settle down, then I don't see why not. But if you're just, obviously just a young guy who just wants to have fun, just get married, just because you think you're in love, and then 2 weeks later, or maybe a year later, you figure out, oh, what have I done here? So you've got to take everything into account.
A lot of people think, a lot of parents think when they say to the kids about marriage that that they're gonna bring the daughter-in-law home, or the son-in-law's gonna come see them every so often and come stay there, for example, for the rest of life. But a lot of kids in their mind are, they want that satisfaction that it is halal, that they want a nikah. The story behind it is just want the nikah, and they don't want to go there and stay there, have a sleepover, have a party there, and then it's just about having it. So it's nikah and it's Islamically lawful, and that they don't want the sin for it. Would you encourage them having a nikah, saying the parents are happy with it and everything's fine, both happy with it? Would you think that it is best to do a nikah, or do you think it is something that should be just left? And
I feel like depending on the age of how old them people are, sometimes a nikah can be beneficial, because obviously once that nikah is done, it is seen as halal, it is seen as done and dusted. Like a lot of marriages nowadays, once the nikah is done, it seems that that's it, it's final, that's happening, because in the eyes of Allah that's done. You're betrothed at this point. So it just comes down to whether your parents are a little open-minded or not.
what would you do if you didn't have an open-minded parent? Let say one parent accepted it and the other parent didn't accept it. Didn't accept it not to reasons against the person or against the fact, but against it in the fact that they don't feel like you're ready for it, or they don't feel you're mature enough. What would steps take? What steps would you take?
I think that it comes down to that individual showing that they're ready for it. At the end of the day, it comes down to them showing that that maturity, or you have to show them that quality in you, that why you think you're ready for that marriage or for that nikah. You just have to show them why you're ready for it, and that comes down to the individual. It could be very different for different people, but at the end of the day, you have to show that respect to your parents and show them that you're worthy of that respect, that you're worthy of making that decision for yourself.
That's where it links to, you know, being open-minded with your parents, because if you're open-minded with your parents from like a young age, say like 12, 13, 14 or secondary school age, if you're open with your parents, if you tell them what goes on, if you told them that, oh, I've been in love with this girl, I've been in love with that girl, or, you know, I love this girl, I think that it gives your parents that more of a, better understanding that, you know, if it's his own choice, if he wants to get married young, then
I feel that the parents' view is, sorry for cutting you off, the parents' view is, I'd say important, but I wouldn't say the main factor in the marriage, because you've got to be happy at the end of the day, like we were discussing, saying that you have to be happy with the marriage. But then I feel that when a child wants to speak to a parent about a certain subject, that they should be open-minded about it, they should listen and not shut closed doors, because it leads to other things. For example, when you're not, like I've said before, when you're not happy and you think, oh, what can I do to get happy? There's other ways, there's many ways you can do it, there's halal ways, there's haram ways, but you want to go about it with the right decision. And the fact that your child wants to go through it, the right decision, should be something that should overlook everything, I think, personally. You should overlook every single thing that your child wants to go with it according the right way, the halal way, not get sin for it, and that he wants to take a big step, and that you should support him as much as you can in the fact that when it comes to, for example, doing a nikah, to making it halal, and encouraging the good. For example, if you close doors on your son or daughter that they want to have a nikah done and make it all halal, and you shut doors on it, they'll think, say someone that's not practicing and they know that you have to do this, they'll slowly get put off and they'll think, what is this? And it's where you see a lot of atheism has grown amongst, for example, in Islam, where Muslims have become atheists due to things like this. For example, being not shown the right way or not being taught the right way, and it's led to them leaving the folds of Islam. And at the end of the day, as Muslims, we don't want that. We want people to embrace Islam, to know that it's the right religion, and that it is the religion basically that will grant you get you on the right path to paradise. And by doing certain things, it's going to get things to put off. Like we know these days, the young generation, they're happy to do what they want. There's no fear. It's not, I won't say it's arrogance, I won't say it's rudeness, it's just the freedom. It's the freedom that they have, and that parents should encourage them. And I'm not saying that they should agree to whatever they say. Obviously, when they're doing something wrong, they're doing wrong. But when they come with an argument to fight with, they should listen, they should advise them, but they should also take it into heed and think about it and do something about it, and not just sit there. Because in the back of the child's mind, they'll be thinking, what is this? My parents, the person that I love, this and that, is meant to be helping me. What shall I do? And they're not helping me. Then they're going to have a negative approach. The parents doing this, how can they trust others? If you trust you're meant to trust your parents the most and tell them, be open with them. If you can't be open with them, then who can you be open with?
Yeah, like you said before, like if you think, if your parent doesn't want you to get married, but you feel like you're mature enough to get married and you feel like you're ready to get married, or if you're ready to settle down and you think you're mature enough to have a kid, then surely you should be able to also be able to speak with your parents and be able to make them try to understand where you're coming from. Like if you can't do that, then are you ready to start a family? Are you ready to get married?
So anything you want to say on that?
I think something else that can be a factor that, you know, sometimes maybe a couple are getting married, but like the boy side might agree and like the girl family might not agree. That can also cause conflict between the families, between the girl and boy, and that obviously can affect the marriage if they do get married later on, because, you know, if to get married, you know, both families have to agree. And if they don't, then it just doesn't make sense, you know. There's no point one person agreeing, one person not, causing conflict, and then, you know, at the end of the day, the couple want to live a happy life. And, you know, if all this is going to happen before it, then their lives are like, you know, destroyed.
Like usually now what happens is, usually one family is happy with the marriage, and say for example a love marriage, some families, one family is usually happy and sometimes the other family isn't. And in that situation, one individual is always going to lose out on something, whether it's the husband or wife, someone's going to lose out on their family. And that's just not what a marriage is there for. A marriage is there to bring everyone together rather than tear family apart. It's there to bring it together. And that's what sometimes people need to keep in mind, that a marriage isn't something to like not hate, it's, or, you know, so something that shouldn't happen. It's something that should be celebrated. It shouldn't be, you know, criticised.
A lot of people, at the end of the day, marriage is a once in a lifetime thing in majority cases. On marriages, they spend a lot of money. For example, it's a time to rejoice, time to be happy, time to celebrate, something to create memories of. A lot of people spend money on it, and it's mainly the parents at the end of the day. It is their responsibility, but say the marriage doesn't work out, they've lost out on a lot of money. For example, say you're hiring out these Bugattis, these Lamborghinis, you're hiring out all these fancy cars, you're doing it, you're chilling, and then at the end of the day, your marriage isn't successful, and you've had a divorce, and all that money's wasted. What face or what answer do you have towards your parents? Say that it was your fault, what would you do then?
I think, like we said before, I think that's why it's important before the marriage to make sure everything's secured in a way so that both boy and girl are happy, they're going to live their lives. Obviously not every marriage is perfect.
But even love marriages, for example, you can, like Dawud was saying earlier, you fall out of love, you might see another girl and think, oh yeah, at the end of the day, as they said, there's so many fish in the sea, so how do you know that person's
But then that's that individual's choice. Of they've seen another girl, they've seen another boy, that's their choice, that's their fault in it. So yeah,
that's why you need to make sure you're actually ready to settle down. Like, you're going to be loyal to this person, you're going to spend the rest of your life with this person. That's why it's really important to get married at the right age.
Dawood, anything to say?
You know, Bilal is right in that sense, but sometimes you need to know when you're ready to settle down. And that's where sometimes people find it difficult to find that point where they are ready to settle down and make a family. But sometimes people aren't ready, and that can be later on in life. So it could be in your late 20s, early 30s, it could be later on, you never know. But sometimes people just aren't ready to settle down, and it might not even be with that person that you've had a nikah with or something. It could be someone else. It could be someone, you could be happy with that person for the moment, but in a couple of years' time, you could find someone else, and you may think about what could and what is, like what you're in right now or what could be with that person, and that's where that temptation comes in to break that marriage and disappointing certain people, and that's where that person just needs to weigh up their decisions, and that's why a lot of the time now, it is usually these love marriages that cause that.
Yeah, that's it's definitely true, because it's really important, like you said, when do you know, like, when are you ready to get married? Like, maybe you're 21 or maybe you're 17, say you're about 20, early 20s, and your mates are getting married. Like we were talking about before, how we have to adapt to society.
Definitely.
So all our friends, all the people around us are getting married, they're happy, they're starting a family, and then you're looking at, oh, I need to get married, everyone else around me is getting married, now I need to go get married. And what if you can't find the right person? Then you just tell your parents, like, oh, mum and dad, I need to get married, even though you're not at that point, you're not ready to get married. You're telling your parents, oh, I need to get married because everyone around me is getting married. Then you end up having that forced arranged marriage, and then like you don't have a happy relationship. Again, like maybe your parents, what if you're like 17 and your parents think you're ready to get married, but you're not actually ready to get married, then you get married, and then
I think parents a lot of parents need to realise that if your child comes home and wants to marry someone, or the girl's seen a person they want to marry, they should understand that the main thing is the person's deen. For example, the first thing is that they're a Muslim, and at the end of the day, coming home with a Muslim is far better. But then you need to, this is where you have the open mind. Remember, say you have a girl that's not practicing but is willing to listen, that is a much better opportunity to have someone who's practicing but isn't listening and has a bad attitude, because that person you can teach, as well as getting reward, and they're willing to listen, they'll get reward, you'll get reward, the parents or whoever's advising them will get reward, and you'll get better, and you'll build a stronger relationship amongst the family. And I think that the main factor is that they're a Muslim. No matter where you from, what sect you are, what you are, the fact that can all change, influence happens there. And if you're good, for example, towards your wife, you show her you're right, she'll build that trust with you, she'll want to listen to you, she'll want to do for you, she'll want to cook for you, she'll want to make those kebabs and rotis, she'll want to do all that for you. But you've got to do that, and it's all got to start from you. You've got to be the right person. You've got to show to your parents that, yeah, I found this girl, I'm happy with this girl. You show the reasons why, let the parents meet the girl. If they're happy with it, then they should make it official and make it halal. At the end of the day, you don't want to sin, your parents want to sin, because your parents will get sin for it, you'll get sin for it, and at the end of the day, it's just sat there. It's going to happen anyway. It's going to create issues if you don't go with it. So accept it and advise on it and go from there.
Yeah, like you were saying, like if you bring someone home and they're not Muslim, you shouldn't really you shouldn't like try and get married to them, and you shouldn't try and make them listen, or even if they want to listen, like they shouldn't convert because of you. They should always convert for the religion.
Yeah, it should be because they want to do it.
Exactly.
They should see that what the religion that you're following is obviously making you a better person, and they should see that them obviously converting into Islam is better for them. Not only better for like the marriage going forward, it's better, you know, for that person to become something better than they already are.
Yeah, and you do hear cases a lot that people, they convert not because of the religion, because of because of the marriage, and they want to live that life not for the religion, not to obey God, not to pray, to do all these, because you may be in love marriage and you're really in love, but
just to get the parents acceptance.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, viewers, we've come to the end of the show. I'd like to thank you all for watching and listening. And I'd like to thank my peers for joining me on this show. And I'll see you next time on Generation Y, same time, same place, Sunday, 4:30 to 5:30. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.